Welcome back. You're still watching Network Africa on Channels Television. Well, it might be a new year, but little or no change has come to the world's newest country. Fighting in South Sudan over the last 2 years has prevented farmers from planting crops, leaving over 2 million people hungry and millions of others displaced. Market prices for staples have doubled, and agencies reckon the situation is likely to get worse from January through March this year.
We expect that more people will come if they're still having the situation still remain the same. And then when they come, more people come, we are in need of help.
Well, 9 months after one of the worst massacres in Kenyan history, teaching has resumed at Garissa University, where 148 students died in a gun attack. Understandably, only a few students have turned up for its reopening. Security has been tightened at Garissa University College 9 months after the attack by militant Islamist group Al-Shabaab. But it appears that many students have stayed away. Last year's attack was by far the deadliest so far at the Somali-based group, by the Somali-based group, I should say, in Kenya. Let's just take you through some of those horrid events which took place 9 months ago. This is the sequence through which the events played out back then when the attack in Garissa occurred. The militants were said to have entered the university grounds when 2 guards were shot dead, after which shooting began within the campus. Students there were attacked in their classrooms while preparing for examinations. The gunmen are believed to have isolated themselves in the female dormitories, and some students were lucky enough to have made their escape through the fence. A total of 148 people lost their lives that day. Well, for more on what's happening regarding the reaction by Kenyans now that classes have resumed, we are joined by Ann Kioko. She is the program manager. She is the program manager for the Culture of Life Africa, and she joins us from Nairobi. Ann Kioko, thank you very much. It's fantastic to see you. Happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year from Nairobi and Culture of Life Africa.
Well, indeed, it's a relatively it's a mix of feelings. We know that when the Garissa attack happened, it was a very horrible one, to say the least. But now that we're seeing that things are getting back to normal to some extent, it is some cause for celebration. I use that term sparingly. But I'd like to start by asking you how Kenyans are reacting now that the classes have resumed in Garissa, even though the turnout was quite low.
Well, like you said at the beginning, when it happened 2nd April of 2018, it was really sad because we lost 147 lives. 142 of those were students. And right now, Kenyans are praising the reopening of Garissa University College because, it shows that we are not about to, to give in to the Somali extremists in service the Al-Shabaab. They are the ones that attacked the university last year, and the reopening of the university is like an assurance that we are really strong. We are not about to give in to this kind of attacks by the Al-Shabaab militants.
That's a very important point, Anne. But we also understand that the turnout in terms of students coming for classes was relatively low. Now I'm finding it a bit hard to look at those 2 points where you're saying that Kenyans are not about to give in, but then we're seeing very low turnout of the students in school. Do you know why that might be the case?
Yeah. The attack was not really a thing, and still some students are registered in the campus, so the Garissa is based in Eldoret. It's a university campus, and maybe it's process of from the Eldoret to Garissa, and again, there are still those who are still overcoming the trauma and, their counseling and stuff. So, as Kenyans, it's important.
Well, Anne, thank you so much for giving us that update. We're very grateful for your time. Thank you very much for joining us. We've been speaking with Anne Kioko. She's the Program Manager for Culture of Life Africa, giving us the latest from Nairobi. When we come back on Network Africa, we'll be looking at the role of the military in ensuring that territories occupied by insurgents in some northern states is worthy of commendation. Welcome back. You're still watching Network Africa on Channels Television. Now, the role of the military is in ensuring territories occupied by insurgents in some northern states is worthy of commendation. That's the position of the Vice President, Professor Yomi Osinbajo, at a special church service to mark the 2016 Armed Forces Remembrance Day. Our correspondent, Amaka Okafor, reports.
The arrival of the Vice President, Professor Yomi Osinbajo, heralds the commencement of the special service in honor of Nigeria's fallen heroes. Typical of any Christian gathering, there was praise and worship, while prayers were offered for the peace of the country, the armed forces, and the families of the fallen soldiers. In his sermon, Bishop David Bakare, the chairman of the Christian Association of Nigeria in the Northeast, asked the government to set aside 10% of recovered funds of corrupt public officers for the families of soldiers who have paid the supreme price in the fight against insurgency.
Are you sure there are no people waiting for a soldier to die so that they can eat their money? Are there no people who needs to be investigated, even in the armed forces, to be sure that the young ones are excited, having labored for the nation? They are important things. We must think about them. We must pray about them. Our leaders, our political leaders, should peep into it a little bit more. Our soldiers should get a better payment. Our soldiers should get a special training. You know, I was telling you about 10% of the money made recovered back from those who stayed. We should also go to the streets of Abuja and remove all those people's names and put a soldier who died having been married 1 month after went to the battlefront and died childless.
The Vice President, on his part, commended the military for liberating all Nigeria's territory from the insurgents. He expressed confidence that the war will be won in all its ramifications.
Their remarkable efforts, in particular at this time, in combating the insurgency in the Northeast, is greatly appreciated by the Nigerian people. We know that Boko Haram and that insurgency in the Northeast has now been degraded militarily. The insurgents no longer hold territory and can no longer launch military-style attacks as they have done in the past. We are confident and we pray that with God on our side, the armed forces of Nigeria will not only complete the work that they have started, especially the military offensive against insurgency, but that they will also, in due course, continue to render the type of service that they have rendered to our great nation, and even better in the years to come.
The interdenominational service is held every year to remember and celebrate men and officers of the Nigerian Armed Forces who paid the supreme price for the nation. Amaka Okafor, Channels Television News.
Well, that's as much as we can take on the program, but we'd like to know your thoughts. And on that note, here's our question of the day. We're asking what should be done to encourage Garissa students to return to school. If you were watching earlier on in the program, we spoke with Anne Kioko, and she told us about the return of some students to school, but not all of them, following the massacre which killed 148 people 9 months ago. Thank you so much for watching Network Africa. Feel free to send us your feedback either via email or Twitter. The address and handle are right there on your screen. Thank you so much for watching Network Africa. I'm Cynthia Are.